Hello guys, welcome to another weekly breakdown video. Today I'll be breaking down the second week of January 2025, as you can see, which started from 13th of January 2025. Let's start with the news. And this week is a very high impact driven news driven week, as you can see. Monday there is no news, but from Tuesday onwards there is every day there is news at our timing, so it would be very tricky. And weeks like this is when I don't like trading, because of anything can happen and we don't know, we can't predict the news, right? What will do. So that's very tricky. So now going on, now let's see my weekly bias. Clearly you can see on GBP USD my weekly bias was bearish, and on DXY my weekly bias was bullish, right? So that was clear. So anything that's aligning with the weekly bias on the daily, I trade the daily bias. But if it's aligning, the daily and the weekly are aligning, it becomes a very high probability trade for us. And in this case, Thursday and Friday closed as a very bearish candle. So on Monday what I would do is look for a sell to continue with the selling. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday literally was bearish. So on Monday also I would look for sells, and if I was looking for sells on the H4 time frame, I'm looking for some sort of break of structure. There was a H4 break of structure right around here, and yeah, after this break of structure, the previous week highs, lows, and if I'm looking for sells, I would look for some sort of supply zones. On the H1 time frame, there was some sort of supply zone right here. So on H1, I didn't took the trade. H1 time frame was Monday was untradeable because of the Asian range. It was 80 pips Asian range, and also whenever the Asian range trends, the London and New York session tends to consolidate, like exactly in this case. The Asian session literally trended, and New York and London session were not trending, and they were ranging, if it makes sense. And yeah, that was the Monday. And now going on Tuesday, my bias is so much clearer. To fill up this fair value gap, my bias has now changed from bearish to bullish because of how this Monday candle closed, and we are totally fine trading that. And yeah, the bias changed within the week. Yes, I trade the daily bias, so no problem. So on Tuesday also there was PPI news. There is no London session news, so that's also one. We can trade London session. That is what it means. And on the H4 time frame, the market is still in this bearish solidified range, as you can see, lower highs and lower lows. So it's going to be tricky because the price is still bearish on the H4, but on the H1 it has already changed character to the upside. That is what I like about this strategy, right? Even if the H4 is doing something else, the H1 or M30 or M15, they change character, and the higher the time frame, the more it's respected. But on the H1 time frame, the price is now bullish, so we are looking for buys. So if I'm looking for buys, I waited for the Asian range to close, and after the Asian range is closed, I marked my demand zone. So this was the demand zone that I've marked to trade from, which was not one of the strongest demand zones because it was not made in our session, as you can see. And only the demand zones or supply zones made in our session, which is London and New York, I like to trade them. But in this case it wasn't. So to be honest, this was a sell opportunity. Even if my bias is bearish, right? My bias is bearish, the price first needs to go down, then to go up. So I could have looked for sells here, to be honest, from this sort of supply zone here, but this supply zone is not made in any session. This supply zone is not strong. So also on the M5 time frame, I didn't took this sell because on the M5 time frame I need a MAC model. Whenever I'm trading against the bias, I need a MAC model on the M5 to be clean, right? So in this case the M5 MAC model was not clean, so I didn't took the trade. Simple as that. So Tuesday I was looking for buys from this area, which didn't happen, and on New York session the price did ended up going up, but it is what it is. So Tuesday also was a no trade day. I tried my best, but obviously we didn't got a trade on Tuesday also. So now going on Wednesday, my bias is not clear on GBP USD because it's a doji, and on DXY my bias is so fucking clear, which being bearish, right? So my bias going on Wednesday is bearish because of how this Tuesday candle closed, and on GBP USD my bias is not clear. And also one thing I've noticed, on Wednesday there is CPI news, right? Both GBP and the dollar CPI is on the same day, so it's going to be very tricky to trade for us. And whenever we tend to have a high impact news like CPI or NFPs, that is when we tend to get trades. Like in this case on Wednesday, my bias was so so clear, and there was also high impact news, so I didn't took the trade because both CPIs, and I have already back tested, so I don't want to waste time, and we didn't got a trade, so we didn't got a trade. Simple as that. Maybe on Euro USD we got a trade, but in GBP USD we didn't. So Wednesday closed as a bullish pin bar in DXY and a doji again on GBP USD. So going on Thursday, I will look for sells on GBP USD because of how DXY closed, and whenever the GBP USD and DXY buyers aren't aligning, that is when I go to Euro to trade Euro or to align Euro. In this case, there are so many cases where I would not trade GBP USD. Whenever the GBP USD isn't aligning with DXY, I would go and trade EU rather than GU, right? But in this case, I am backtesting GU. That is why I am obligated to trade GBP USD. So now going on Thursday, also on Thursday there is both GBP and USD news, and whenever there is GBP and USD news both on the same day, I don't trade. So simple as that, I didn't do the trade on Thursday. And also on Thursday I didn't got an opportunity because I've already back tested, so I can tell it, right? So I waste no time on my videos so that I can focus on what matters and focus on what has given us result. Now going on Friday, now the bias has clearly, on Thursday the bias had aligned on DXY with the weekly bias, but now going on Friday again, it is bearish again because of how this Thursday candle closed, and it was also aligning with GBP USD being bullish. So now we can look for a trade on Friday to look for buys, and also we know that the Friday is a pullback day, a higher probability of pullback happening on Friday. And on Friday there was GBP retail sales news, but on New York session there was no news, right? So Thursday closes a bullish candle. That is when I go to the H4 time frame to look for some sort of market structure shifts, and the price was still ranging between these lower highs and lower lows, meaning the price was in this supply areas bearish solidified range, as you can see, and the price was literally bearish. On the H4 time frame the price was literally bearish, and if the price is bearish, it is very tricky for us to look for an opportunity. So now going on Friday, I'm looking for buys on the H1 from this H1 demand zone right here. This H1 demand zone was not respected at all because London session literally went to the downside. Without wasting any time, I'm showing it to you guys. The London session literally went down, didn't respect the demand zone right there, and my bias was bullish, right? So taking this sell right here would not make any sense, and also this was not at my time window, so I didn't took the trade here. So I took a trade from this M15 demand zone which was made in London session, meaning the London session literally went down at the first hours and then literally pulled back all the way up there. So there were a huge amount of buying happened here, and my bias was bullish, right? So on New York session I was looking for a buy from where? From this demand zone right around here. It is a New York continuation London model, and it works. I have seen it so many times happen in the market. The price went down, mitigated the London demand zone, and then gave us a beautiful buy from here. I took this trade on the M5. Probably I would have taken this trade on the M1. M1 would have been more clear, but right now I don't have access to M1. That is why I took this trade on the M5, and it was a banger. As you can see, it was a banger trade, 1:4 risk to reward. I could have passed the first phase with this trade only. So waiting patiently for your bias for the trade to align with your bias, which was bullish, trading in your time window, following your strategy, trading with your checklist, right? Whenever you do all of that, your probability of winning is so much higher than losing, as you can see in these examples that I show you guys every single time. And yeah, this trade was a banger. Could have passed us any profit challenge that exists in this world. So yeah, this was the weekly breakdown, and the only trade that I caught on this week was on Friday, and it was a banger, right? So yeah, about the weekly callouts, I have already taken a photo, so don't worry about that. That you can get it on my important callout section. So yeah, see you on the next video.